If you're serious about mixing music, this could be the one product your studio needs to transform your work. And the good news is, it's not expensive, like at all. Hi, I'm Thorne, a mixing and mastering engineer in London. It's good to see you. I'm going to start this video with something potentially controversial. If you're serious about mixing music, you need to be using planar magnetic headphones. Ideally, alongside speakers, of course. Dynamic headphones are fine, but they're simply not fast enough to accurately reproduce the microdynamics and transient details in the low end required to mix modern music. And often, they can't handle the low-end EQ boost required to meet a suitable EQ curve, such as Harman, cleanly without introducing distortion, which delivers an inaccurate representation of the low end, leading to poor mix translation. Planar magnetic headphones such as THOMANN, Audeze, and Dan Clark's can handle huge low-end EQ boosts linearly without introducing distortion if driven correctly. They are also significantly and audibly much faster headphones. The next problem occurs when using the headphone amplifier on an audio interface. Most audio interfaces are current limited and do not deliver enough current to cleanly drive planar magnetic headphones. For this reason, a designated combination DAC and headphone amplifier is a much better choice of amplification. The Topping DX5 is just £300, with conversion, power, THD, and crosstalk levels that compete with headphone amplifiers costing multiple times the price. But what exactly is it about this headphone amplifier that makes it so special? Let's get the basics out of the way first. The DX5 Mark II hosts coaxial optical 5.1 LDAC Bluetooth and USB inputs. The Bluetooth input is particularly useful if you have clients in the room wanting to play demos or reference tracks rather than them having to email you. There are stereo 3-pin XLR analog outputs to feed your speakers. On the front there is a 4-pin balanced XLR output, a 6.35mm 1/4-inch jack output, and a 4.4mm Pentacon balanced mini jack. For those wondering what a 4-pin balanced output is compared to a traditional 3-pin or a single-ended 1/4-inch jack output, it is as follows. In a single-ended or 3-pin XLR headphone output, both channels share a current return path from the drivers, so current from one channel is coupled into the other, which creates voltage modulation. A 4-pin balanced XLR or Pentacon output drives each driver with its own positive and negative terminals, eliminating the shared return path and allowing true differential drive. Paired with a balanced headphone amp such as the DX5 Mark II, this improved channel separation helps low-impedance planar headphones deliver audibly better imaging with cleaner low-frequency control and lower distortion at higher levels. This is, of course, only if used with a balanced cable. They are different. Needless to say, audio interfaces don't host 4-pin balanced outputs, so you can't access this benefit. Another problem with using an audio interface for mixing is this. Many audio interface headphone amplifiers have a relatively high output impedance, often in the 30 to 50 ohm range, which restricts the range of headphones they can effectively drive. When paired with low impedance headphones, such as planar magnetics, this output impedance forms a voltage divider, causing a significant portion of the available voltage and power to be dropped inside the amplifier rather than delivered to the headphones. Not ideal. By contrast, the DX5 Mark II has a very low output impedance of approximately 0.1 ohm, allowing it to deliver voltage and current efficiently into a wider range of headphones whilst maintaining proper electrical damping and headroom. Typically, the digital to analog signal conversion and dynamic range of an audio interface is also quite limited. The Topping DX5 hosts the new ESS 9039 Q2M converters, one for each side, left and right. And these have a dynamic range of 133 decibels. In contrast, the 3,700 pounds Lynx Hilo 2 has a dynamic range of 121 decibels, both A-weighted. Now, to say the theoretical range of a 24-bit converter is 144 decibels, 6 decibels per bit, find out more about that in this video, 133 is not a bad effort. The highest dynamic range I could find on any device is on the benchmark DAC3 HGC, which has 140 decibels, but that costs £2,000 more than the Topping. The DX5 Mark II has a THD plus N of, 0.00008%, that's 4 zeros, at 32 ohms, and a maximum THD of 0.0005%, that's 3 zeros, across the entire frequency spectrum from 20 to 20 kilohertz. And the crosstalk level is down at minus 143 decibels at 1 kilohertz on the balanced output. This is compared to 130 decibels on the Lynx Hilo 2. So, again, it's a better headphone amp. Now, where this device is really impressive is the power delivery. The DX5 Mark II delivers up to 7,600 milliwatts into 16 ohms. That's 7.6 watts of power. For context, a bus-powered Focusrite Scarlett, priced around £175, delivers approximately 33 milliwatts into 33 ohms and 22 milliwatts into 300 ohms. Although, independent measurements from Amir at Audio Science Review measured the 33 ohm figure closer to 27 milliwatts, so hugely lower. And at the opposite end of the price spectrum, the Lynx Hilo 2 again delivers 79 milliwatts into 300 ohms and approximately 1,000 milliwatts into 33 ohms. This is very respectful, but by comparison, the DX5 Mark II is rated at 490 milliwatts into 300 ohms and 6,400 milliwatts into 32 ohms. Now, Audio Science Review broadly corroborate these figures, but actually measuring slightly differently, approximately double at 1,000 milliwatts into 300 ohms and a bit less at 5,900 milliwatts into 33 ohms. Now, while the exact numbers vary between the manufacturer specifications and bench measurements, the overall conclusion is pretty clear. The DX5 Mark II operates in a completely different performance class in terms of headphone power delivery to virtually anything else on the market, definitely within its price point. And if all this sounds impressive, it gets even better. The free Topping Tune application allows you to program and store on the device up to 10 recallable 10-band parametric EQ headphone calibration profiles. Here you can see I have a curve for each of my headphones. To EQ your headphones, I recommend going to autoeq.app, typing in which headphones you have, and selecting the custom parametric EQ option from the menu on the right-hand side. Now, I delete the first and last bands because they default to limited parameters, which I don't want, and deleting them is quicker than resetting the values. Then select as many frequency bands as your headphones need. I usually start with 5, but generally the fewer the better to minimize phase shifting. Input these parameters into Topping Tune and it will save your profiles to the device for easy recall with the remote control or the native navigation buttons. The DX5 Mark II now features built-in Crossfeed, which can be enabled on existing units via a firmware update from Topping's website. There are 2 functions available. The simple option is based on the BS2B or the Bauer stereophonic to binaural algorithm. This mode mixes a small amount of the left channel into the right channel and vice versa to simulate a more natural speaker-like listening experience with sound from each speaker entering both ears. This helps headphones that sound excessively wide, such as the Sendy Peacocks, these bad boys. Now, despite saying this, these are killer headphones that compete with the Audeze MX4s for around half the price. Subscribe for that video coming soon. There are several simple crossfeed options tailored by Topping engineers. The convolution options simulate HRTF or head-related transfer function. In essence, this crossfeed applies specialized frequency-depending filters and time delays to simulate room reflections and how sound interacts with the listener's head, ears, and torso. The DX5 Mark II has 8 PCM Anti-Aliasing Filters. These host various combinations of linear and minimum phase filters with fast and slow roll-off slopes, the combinations of which slightly affect the EQ ripple in the top end towards the filters, the imaging, transient response, and the amount of pre-ringing introduced, if any. Personally, I prefer the default F1 setting, so I suggest using that. This had zero destructive impact on the transients, didn't introduce any phase shifting or smearing, and kept the stereo imaging beautifully intact. So ultimately, the sound, arguably the most important bit. So I've used this amp for a few months now with the Order Z LCD XCs and MX4s, the THOMANN Ananda Nanos, the Sendy Peacocks, and the Sennheiser HD 490s. Oh, by the way, there's a playlist linked below to reviews of all these headphones. These headphones are fast, and I mean fast. When I say fast, you're not gonna get this speed with dynamic headphones. They're just not fast enough. But on a headphone such as the Ananda Nanos, wow, the transients on these slam and punch. And the amp is also super clean, so I had to boost the LCD XCs by 12 decibels at 26 hertz. Now the headphones can handle this, but it's clean. Now I have to admit, it's just on the edge. 13 is probably going to push one of them over the edge, but there's no distortion. It is such a clean and linear sound. Now the keen-eyed amongst you will notice that I also have the Topping DX7 Pro Plus, and if you have that, you will know that that is a good headphone amplifier with good conversion. I use that because it actually has better conversion than my Apollo X16, so I use that for my speaker conversion. The DX5 Mark II immediately feels more natural, and I think open is the word, but speed is what I just can't express enough. The DX5 features a 2-inch color LED display with a rotary dial for menu navigation. These options are also available from the included remote control. On it, we have input, output, volume, and menu buttons. The A and B buttons are assignable with the following options: parametric EQ profile selection, PCM filter selection, high gain or low gain. Now, high gain will deliver the most current. Thank you, Paul, for that bit of information. So we suggest putting it on high gain. Parametric EQ on and off, crossfeed type, crossfeed configuration, input select, output select, home select, brightness, although there are already designated buttons for the home brightness, input and output selection, dim screen, and mute. Now my settings are, on the A button, I use the EQ profile selection to go between sets of headphones. Annoyingly, this is quite slow, if I'm honest. And then I use the output select to swap between the balanced 4-pin XLR and the single-ended 1/4-inch jack outputs, which you can leave in at the same time. It's not going to draw power into both because you're selecting between the two. And then on button B, I have my crossfeed selections, and you can also turn it off using this as well. There are also 2 customizable system configuration buttons, C1 and C2. For example, you could use C1 for all of your headphone settings, which could include muting the analog XLR outputs to your speakers, and then C2 for your speaker settings, which could mute your headphone outputs. So you may be wondering, why are you using both the DX5 and the DX7? Well, as I said earlier, the DX7 is actually doing my system conversion. I've got the X16, which is routing all my analog gear. I've got using all 16 I/O points for that between the Flock audio patch and fixed channel strips with my Wes Audio 500 series. I'm then running from the X16 via AES into the DX7. Now the DX5 doesn't have an AES input, which is a bit of a limitation, but I'll get back to that. From my DX7, I'm going out of the analog outputs, having utilized the DX7 conversion, which, like I said, is audibly better than the X16 conversion, and that then is feeding Trinov, which is feeding my Amphions via analog, and the Mum 6 speakers by AES. Now, the reason I have both is because the DX5 is just such a better headphone amp that if I'm mixing in the box, I can utilize the DX5. And you could as well if you wanted to use that for your speaker conversion as well. But if you're doing an analog mix, you still have to have the I/O of your audio interface, which you'll have to select in Pro Tools or Logic. So you'll have to feed, basically you have to figure out another way around it. Now, I could use the analog outputs on the X16 to feed Trinnov, but the conversion on the Toppings is better, which is why I've chosen to bypass that. Yes, I am introducing an unnecessary additional round of conversion, but that is not audible compared to the audible improvement of the Topping conversion to the Apollo X16, which is obviously that Universal Audio's flagship converter. It's not shabby, it's good. It's just this is just how good the Topping conversion is in comparison. Now, there is a rumor that Topping will be updating the DX7 Pro Plus, so if they make that sound as good as the DX5 Mark II with AES inputs, then I will be replacing both in my studio, and I'll just have the one device that can feed the speakers and the headphones. Now, what would be great is if Topping had a device which also had AES out, so I could go AES from my Apollo into the Topping, then AES digital into Trinnov. Oh no, wait, because Trinnov don't have AES in. They really messed up on that. Ugh. Anyway, hopefully that explains why I have both. So, I'm aware the danger of waxing lyrical about a product on YouTube is that people just assume you're a shill and you're getting paid to sell stuff. Blah. In this case, I'm not getting paid to produce this video, but for full disclosure, Topping did give me this interface for this review, which is kind of essential to review something. But the reality is, I'd have bought this anyway because for headphones, it is so good. I bought my DX7 and I knew it would be a good investment. This DACAMP is just that good. Like I said in the title, it is almost endgame, and it's only almost endgame because Topping have even better products, which is terrifying. Needless to say, I highly recommend the DX5 Mark II. Now, worst case scenario, buy it, using the links in the description, obviously. And if you don't like it, send it back. Simple. On that money-saving bombshell, I've been Ed Thorne. Be kind to yourself and others, including fellow audio nerds in the comments of videos. And I'll see you on the next video where I'll be reviewing these. They are beautiful. It's been emotional.